In 1978, John Carpenter quickly became the master of horror when he unleashed Halloween, the first official slasher. And this October, he's back. I could do this all day. It's a BrassReel Halloween! What up, party peoples? Bobo here with BrassReel Brothers. Thanks for coming back for some more popcorns. Last year I had such a good time covering all those movies for you guys. But this year, you know what? I decided it's time to get to the big three. I'm gonna do them eventually. And there's such a huge influence to me in my love of horror films. So I'm doing all the Halloweens, all the Friday the 13th, and all the Nightmare on Elm Streets. And I'm doing them in an order basically on how the franchises were released to the world. So Halloween was the first one that anybody ever saw. Friday the 13th was the second one. Nightmare on Elm Street being the third one. And by the time I get done with the Halloween movies, it's going to be just in time for Halloween Kills, so that works out perfectly. And don't worry, I'm doing Freddy vs. Jason at the very end of it all. Well, let's get started. Halloween 1. Halloween. I think if you're a horror movie fan, it's safe to say you love this film. Yeah, there's a handful of people out there that it doesn't do anything for. My buddy Asmaniac being one of them. Yeah, I called you out. But for most people that love horror films, this one is sort of like the Bible, the Holy Grail. Maybe it floats around in a handful of other ones, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre's in there. Obviously, Friday the 13th is in there. Psycho, Black Christmas. But there really is only a handful that were the first. And Halloween was the first of its kind. It was super low budget. It was groundbreaking film work. Things like the Steadicam just weren't used a whole lot. And a horror movie had never been this successful or popular. Yeah, Jaws was really popular, successful, and some could call that a horror film, but this is a straight up slasher. Its only purpose is to scare you. There's no like underlying moral or tone or anything like that. It's about the boogeyman, Michael Myers, who is iconic, chasing down babysitters, specifically Jamie Lee Curtis, who became the Scream Queen as she's referred to now, because she's been in so many horror movies and a lot of good ones at that. Not to say she hasn't proven herself otherwise, because she has. But she was the original final girl, if you will. I guess you could say that there was a final girl at the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but let's face it, by the time she's getting away in that truck, she's crazy. She's lost her mind after what she's been through. And it's pretty just out there. Halloween was so familiar. So many of us grew up in suburban neighborhoods. And how many kids like me growing up had girl babysitters? Now, movies have changed along the way, but every person that's a slasher director or a filmmaker loves Halloween. To me, there's a lot of movies that don't hold up throughout the years, especially when you saw them back when you were a kid and they were scary, and now they're just like, eh. But Halloween is still great. It still just gives you this feeling, just the whole package. I always talk about movies needing to be a full package. Halloween 1978 is the full package. The color schemes are just awesome in it, and the simple way that they make you afraid of this dude in a white mask who's the boogeyman, the original boogeyman, stalking Jamie Lee Curtis, and you just sort of nail biting the whole time. It's just really clever and well done and so simple. Not to mention that we got Donald Pleasance in there just being a badass. I shot him 6 times.
I shot him 6 times. I shot him 6 times.
I shot him 6 times. I haven't even gotten to the music yet, which is done by John Carpenter. Written and directed by John Carpenter, music by John Carpenter, co-written by Deborah Hill, produced by Deborah Hill. They did a bunch of production stuff together, The Fog, way many other things. But I remember watching this movie as a kid, just truly being creeped out by it. And it wasn't the first one that I saw as far as the Michael Myers movies, but I watched it pretty quickly after I started getting into horror as a kid. It's just a perfect film in my opinion. Just the way Michael's hiding behind the bushes, you get the POV shots from him, the way they show him breaking out of the mental hospital in the beginning, just all the factors in the film are very creepy and scary, and it makes you feel like it's Halloween night. Because you all know the story. It starts off with Michael Myers as a little kid, and he kills his sister, and it's all done through this clown mask and everything, and his parents come home and they find him. Fast Fast forward to years later, he escapes from a mental institution and he starts going on this murder spree killing babysitters in the neighborhoods. The beauty of this movie is that's the simplicity of it. You don't know anything else, you don't need to know anything else, you just know this guy's creepy and dangerous and he's out there. Donald Pleasance is the doctor looking for him, he's a psychologist. And on top of all that, Jamie Lee Curtis is just in it because he finds her, he ends up with her. There's no interwoven fabric that makes their story any deeper. It's just by coincidence. And to me, that makes the movie really frightening. When Michael's walking across the streets between the two houses at nighttime, he's hiding under lights. Even in the daytime, he's creepy as hell. Not a lot of movies can do that, pulling off daytime creepy stuff. When they're going up to the Myers house and there's the POV shot from the inside and it's Michael looking at him. I watch this movie every Halloween because it feels right. It feels like it's connected to the holiday. And how genius is it that they named the movie Halloween? I don't think you could do that with any other title. You couldn't just name a movie Christmas. There's been some other ones like New Year's Evil and My Bloody Valentine, but those are just based around the holiday. And all the other movies that are called like Valentine's Day or New Year's Eve, those were shitty romantic comedies that nobody liked. But to name the movie Halloween, genius, it's perfect, and it feels right because Michael Myers is synonymous with the holiday now. They also do a good job of focusing on the little kids that are involved in the movie that get a little more involved later on. You're seeing them at school. You're seeing all these mean-ass kids pick on him with the pumpkin. We're gonna get you, he's gonna get you, he's gonna get you, he's gonna get you.
He's gonna get you, 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 he's gonna get you.
Man, what a bunch of twerps. But you got that awesome scene with the stinger music, drops the pumpkin, Michael runs into him and he... Then let's just talk about how they got the mask. They bought it at some store off the shelf. It was a Captain Kirk mask because Captain Kirk was popular at the time. Star Trek was still huge. And they just manipulated it a little bit. Painted it white, did some stuff to the face, made the hair all whacked out. And it works, man. It's one of the creepiest masks of all time. Anytime they've manipulated it going forward, which we're going to talk about all those, it's just never been quite as good as the first one, with the exception of the 2018 movie. This movie set the template for horror movies to come. It's got all the nudity that you want in there, it's got awesome kill scenes, and it's not even that gory. There's hardly a drop of blood in this movie. It's just so well done with Michael creeping around. And they do a really good job of painting the picture of Laurie and all of her friends, you know, beforehand. It doesn't just jump right into the horror, but it does a really good job of creeping up to it. And to me, it never gets old, and it's only like an hour and a half long, so it's totally easy to get through. And the kill scenes aren't only just great in this movie, they become iconic. Like him being stabbed up against the wall, then Michael Myers being dressed in the sheet with the glasses, killing the girl. Hell, I've seen people now go as that for Halloween instead of just the regular Michael Myers costume. Everything about the movie is iconic. So many iconic scenes. I was talking about earlier when Michael's going across the street between the two houses. Man, when Laurie's running across the street because she's finally running from Michael, God, that's so scary. I remember as a kid just really being scared. And that's one more thing. Michael is so believable in this movie. He's not over the top, just this unstoppable rebel force, which I like that. Don't get me wrong, I do like that. But not as much as I like the really tough human that's slightly crazy, which makes him a little tougher. To me, that's part of the character that just works the best when they go with that angle. And some people had a problem with Michael Myers driving a car. I don't know, that didn't bother me. Driving a car is not terribly complicated. You can kind of figure that out.
For God's sakes, he can't drive a car. He was doing very well last night.
Everybody was just like, oh my God, you gotta see this movie. There wasn't a movie like Halloween before it came out. Now there are a dime a dozen. But before this movie, it was sort of like the only one. Black Christmas was before it, but it just wasn't on the scale and quality of Halloween. Ultimately, the movie ends off on a note to where it seemed like it could have just stopped there and would have been just this standalone, final, awesome film where you get shot and goes off the side of the balcony, and she's all asking, was that the boogeyman? And he's like, as a matter of fact, it was. Now, just let me back up real quick. I think she says, what's the boogeyman?
What's the boogeyman?
And he just says,
as a matter of fact, it was.
But either way, by the end of the film and you've gotten to that point, you get it all, and it's been a hell of a ride. Overall, Halloween is in my top 5 horror films of all time. It's a masterpiece. Like I said, most people that are in the horror industry or just horror movie fans adore this movie and love it for the reasons that I love it. I respect the few that don't like it out there, but for me, it's like the Bible. I give Halloween 1978 A+. Well guys, that'll do it for this review. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. And even though I thought Halloween is a perfect standalone film, we're gonna get into the slew of sequels that happened throughout the years. So join me for tomorrow on the next video of Halloween 2. Look for BrassReel Brothers on Facebook, look for Bobby Williams on Facebook, and look for BrassReel Brothers on Twitter. And if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button so you can help us make it to the top. And as always, if life gives you lemons, make some hot, fresh popcorns.
I shot him 6 times.